Welcome to Okaloosa Eye on Crime. This month we're going to profile a 10-year-old unsolved murder in Crestview, as well as the 26-year anniversary of the disappearance of a Fort Walton Beach teenager.
That's right. In addition to that, we will focus on a Fort Walton Beach murder that took place last October on Carson Drive and other high-profile cases that law enforcement investigators are working to solve. And we're going to start with that 10-year-old homicide in Crestview. It was back on January 6, 2006. Melissa Lynn Howard, 35-year-old mother of two, was killed in her Crestview home. Now, she was found in her home with multiple stab wounds and had also suffered blunt force trauma to the head. The Crestview Police Department has been working with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, but they're asking anyone who may have information about this homicide to please give them a call, or you can always contact Emerald Coast Crimestoppers anonymously.
And moving to another homicide, this one in Fort Walton Beach. More recently, Jeppy Samuel was walking on Carson Drive near the intersection of 3rd Street on October 1st at around 2 p.m. when a dark-colored Hyundai four-door drove up and someone fired several shots at the victim, one of which struck him in the back, killing him. This shooting occurred in broad daylight when there were reportedly several witnesses. However, none have come forward. But if you have any information on this crime, you can call 850-863-TIPS. You can, of course, do emeraldcoastcrimestoppers.com, or you can text TIP 214 plus your message to crimes 274-637.
And Okaloosa investigators are actually still searching for several Destin home invasion robbery suspects. This actually happened back in April of last year. The victims at the Country Club Drive residence say they were tied up and robbed by 3 to 4 men dressed in black and were carrying guns. Now, one of the two residents told deputies a locked back door was forced open sometime after 8:30 in the evening, and he said the other residents were tied up and pushed to the ground while the group of armed men went through the home looking for valuables. And they said the robbers, who were all about 5'9" and had thin builds, spent about 30 minutes in the house before leaving. So anybody with information about that one, that's a scary one, but investigators are still actively trying to figure out what happened there.
And we're moving now to the Crestview Police Department that needs help identifying a church burglar. On December 4th of last year, officers and investigators with the PD there responded to the Community of Christ Church at 398 West 1st Avenue in reference to an overnight burglary to a church. At approximately 4:30 in the morning, an unidentified white female broke several windows and entered the church, causing significant property damage and stealing money from a secured area. That suspect was wearing a hooded jacket, baggy pants, and what looked like flip-flops. She appeared to be in her late 20s to mid-30s with shoulder-length hair.
And the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is investigating a break-in at a Crestview area gun shop back on the morning of October 4th of last year. Now, the Sheriff's Office responded to an audible alarm at the residence or the business on South Verdon Boulevard about 6:12 a.m. They discovered a back door was open and glass display case had been shattered. Business owners say some pistols and rifles were missing, so anybody with information about that burglary, give us a call, 863-TIPS. Remember, it's anonymous.
And moving now to Niceville, where police are trying to identify a theft suspect. The man in these photos is a suspect in a retail theft at Laura's Pet and Horse in Niceville back on November 21st. Anyone who might know his identity is asked to contact the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. Of course, that number is 651-7400, and if you go through Crime Stoppers and have information that leads to an arrest, you can earn a cash reward and you do not have to give your name.
And the Niceville Police Department is still seeking information in a death investigation. This is of 35-year-old Azel Hardy. They actually responded to a 911 call about a disturbance on Nathy Street in Niceville about 10:30 back on August 29th. And they found Hardy, who was not breathing, and he was actually pronounced dead later. So a lot of questions regarding that death investigation, but they're asking anybody with information. Of course, you can contact the Niceville Police Department or Emerald Coast Crimestoppers.
And over in Walton County, the Sheriff's Office is searching for a stolen boat. They're trying to locate this deck boat, which was taken from a home on Antioch Cemetery Road in Freeport. The boat's a 2006 Hurricane deck boat with a 250 Yamaha engine on an easy load aluminum trailer. At the time of the theft, the boat was not in running condition. A camo kayak, which was located on the boat, is also missing, so any information on that would be appreciated.
And the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is trying to identify this man, reference a theft that occurred back on September 17th of last year. He actually posed as an employee for a local construction company and rented a Honda generator and a chainsaw from the Sunbelt Rentals in Fort Walton Beach. Now, he billed it to the construction company's account, did not return the equipment, and they're trying to figure out what his identity is. So if you know him, give us a call, 863-TIPS.
2015 ended with a major achievement by the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, achieving the gold standard in public safety. The OCSO became the first and the only law enforcement agency in Northwest Florida to be awarded national accreditation, and that's by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, otherwise known as CALEA.
As you know, every agency has certain things that they're strong on, certain things they're weak on, and we have to say that you're very strong on almost everything that we observed. The professional image of your personnel, everyone we spoke to was extremely knowledgeable, well-spoken, and understood their role within the organization. They were also very, very courteous to us. As you well know, the foundation of a good police department, a good sheriff's department, is basically has four components. One is leadership, second one is the employees, third one is equipment, and the fourth one is community support. And it was very obvious to us during the 4 days that we were here that this agency has all four of those components in place. You should be commended for that.
Well, CFA accreditation, which is a state level, has about 240 standards, a little over 240 standards. National accreditation, which is CALEA, has over 400 standards to meet. And basically, it's this outside oversight by another organization and the Commission on Accreditation that looks at your agency and it basically conducts an audit, a policy audit, to ensure that what you do as a practice, your operating procedures, match what your policy says. And it's akin to, you know, when you send your kids to college, you want to ensure that it's an accredited college because you want to know that there's an established standard that you can read and measure and hold somebody accountable to. And so what your Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office has been able to achieve over the last 4 years is not just state accreditation, but national accreditation.
In the Panhandle, we're the only law enforcement agency in the Panhandle that's accredited through CALEA. In fact, there's fewer than 5% of the total of 18,000 law enforcement agencies across the United States that are accredited through CALEA. So it says a lot for the agency and its people.
And the men and women of this Sheriff's Office who have worked so hard to achieve this gold standard, I'm just so proud of them, that their commitment, their professionalism, and their commitment for the next generation.
Accreditation brings professionalism to the agency. It lets the agency, lets the citizens that we support know that we're doing what's expected of them. We're following the best business practices of law enforcement agencies. It's not just the sheriff saying, hey, we're doing this, we're doing a good job. We have an outside non-affiliated team come in, look at us and say, yes, you are doing what's expected of you. And it helps in addition with liability. It reduces our liability because of the training involved, because of the policies we put in place, the expectation of our people.
Just very proud of our people for achieving this accomplishment and for what it means to the citizens of Okaloosa County that they can expect a gold standard service from their local sheriff's office.
The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office earned statewide accreditation from the Commission for Florida Law Enforcement Accreditation back in June of 2010. Now, the dual certification helps put the agency among the nation's leaders in law enforcement professional development.
Yeah, there's a lot of words in there, but that's actually a very significant achievement. This accreditation is something that the agency is extraordinarily proud of. We're going to move on now to a rundown of some of the local fugitives that we're asking the public to help us find as of today's taping date, which is January 8th.
And if you have information on how to locate any of these wanted fugitives, keep in mind you could earn a cash reward and you can report it and remain 100% anonymous. So first up is Michael Devontae Payton, 23 years old. He's wanted for fleeing, eluding police, possession of a weapon by a convicted felon, resisting an officer, possession of narcotics with intent to sell, burglary, and aggravated battery. And
this man, Jeremy Scott Francis, was last known to live on Pine Street in Niceville. He's wanted for violating probation on charges of grand theft as well as possession of a controlled substance.
41-year-old Sherry Ann Horner, who's wanted for violation of probation for felony battery, last known to live on Green Street over in Fort Walton Beach.
Also looking for Donnie Sean Clemens II. He's 24 years old. He's wanted for 3 counts of felony battery, and his last known address was on Tonus Way in Fort Walton Beach.
And deputies are looking for 43-year-old Andrea Beth Englert, who is wanted for failure to appear for burglary, larceny, DUI, and possession of a controlled substance without a prescription, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
The last known address for Thomas J. Tucker was in Panama City Beach, but he's wanted for violating probation on a charge of grand theft.
And the Walton County Sheriff's Office is looking for Christopher Dwight Cole for failure to register as a sexual offender, and he was last known to live up in Laurel Hill.
This next one's a big one that I've been looking for this individual for quite a while for some pretty significant things. Jordan Christopher Reeves, wanted by the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office for the murder of Timothy Stalker Jr. in the parking lot of a nightclub on Okaloosa Island back on August 9th. Reeves, in fact, is also wanted by the Orange County Sheriff's Office for attempted murder. Last known to live in Crestview. I think he may have left the area, but if he comes back to visit or if you know where he is, law enforcement would certainly appreciate knowing any information on Jordan Reeves.
Sure would. Next up is 32-year-old Joseph Donald Baxter, who's wanted by both the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office and the Walton County Sheriff's Office on fraud charges, last known to live out in Miramar Beach.
Trying to track down George Monroe Emmerich II. He's 46 years old, and Emmerich's wanted by the Sheriff's Office in Okaloosa County for violating probation on a charge of domestic violence, strangulation, and aggravated battery.
And next up is Robert Lee Thompson, who may possibly be staying in the Panama City Beach area, but he's wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for burglary.
A lot of people seem to be violating probation. This guy, Ivan Baramov, is wanted by the Sheriff's Office in Okaloosa for VOP grand theft. His last known address was on Plew Avenue in Shalimar.
Next up is 32-year-old Alexis Wilmer Mondragon, and hopefully I said that right, wanted by the Sheriff's Office for sexual battery, sex offense against a child, and lewd and lascivious molestation. So last known address on Spencer Drive in Fort Walton Beach. Give us a call if you've seen him.
That's definitely one that they'd like to find ASAP. Some good news on the next one, Justin Ryan Tinkersley. Justin has been located since the last show.
That's been 26 years since one of Okaloosa County's biggest unsolved mysteries took place. Now, the puzzling disappearance of a teenage girl from her family's Fort Walton Beach apartment.
Still, all this time afterwards, hope does remain that someone out there has information that could solve that puzzle and that could bring some closure to her loved ones after all this time. Andrea Durham was only 13 years old when she disappeared without a trace from her home at Royale Apartments on Colonial Drive back on February 1st, 1990. Her mother last saw her around 7:30. Her mom was leaving for a meeting and Andrea was doing household chores.
She was vacuuming up the house, and when they returned home, the door was open and the vacuum was still in the middle of the floor, and Andrea was gone.
Andrea's purse, her makeup, her clothes, all still in the home. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle, no signs of foul play. Andrea Durham's disappearance remains a mystery.
We had a few incidences where we had some leads, but they did not pan out. We're still looking for any information that we can get to hopefully find her or, resolve this issue.
Andrea's case has been profiled in local and national media with advanced stage photos done to show how she might look today. If you have any information about the disappearance of Andrea Durham on February 1st, 1990, contact the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office at 850-651-7400 or contact Emerald Coast Crimestoppers at 850-863-TIPS.
And now we have some more fugitives that law enforcement officers are looking for. Remember, you can contact Emerald Coast Crimestoppers anonymously if you know where any of them are. First up, actually no longer being sought by law enforcement, is Beverly Jean McFadden, because she's been located.
We can take her off, but we're still looking for Brittany Linnell Sanders, 28 years old. She's wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for violating probation on charges of creating, using, or possessing counterfeit credit cards with intent to use counterfeit information.
And 26-year-old Samuel Thomas Lyons is wanted for uttering a forged instrument ×5, theft, violation of probation for obtaining drugs by fraud, last known to live in Crestview.
Justin Thomas Parks is wanted by Walton County for burglary, criminal mischief, and misdemeanor VOP for driving with a license while suspended or revoked. He was last known to live in Freeport.
And you can call Crimestoppers if you know where Troy Clayton Gavin is located. He's wanted for failure to register as a sexual offender, last known to live in Ponce de Leon.
Next up is Crystal Lynn Marie Corkins. She's wanted by Okaloosa County for violating probation on providing false information to a pawnbroker, burglary, fraud, grand theft, and dealing in stolen property. Quite a list.
Yeah, 31-year-old William James Barcheski, who was last known to live on Rainbow Drive in Fort Walton Beach, and he's wanted for resisting arrest with violence and trespassing.
We've got another individual being sought from last known to live in Freeport, and that's 30-year-old Robert Lee Hutton. Hutton's wanted by the the Walton County Sheriff's Office, that is, for violating probation on a charge of battery on a law enforcement officer.
And Michael Scotty Laravide is wanted by the Sheriff's Office for violation of probation for possession of a controlled substance, possession of marijuana, and possession of drug paraphernalia, last known to live on Miracle Strip Parkway in Fort Walton Beach.
And back to Walton County again for Joshua James Picard, violating probation with charges of possession with intent to sell or manufacture or deliver controlled substances, possession of marijuana, and possession of paraphernalia, wanted by the SO in Walton for those charges and last known to live in Defuniak Springs.
Audrey Shea Pendarvis, who is a 27-year-old white female, she's wanted for violation of probation for DUI and also for failure to appear on bail.
And Larry Neal Brown II is wanted by the Okaloosa Sheriff's Office for violating probation on aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, criminal mischief, and battery. Brown's last known address was on Angela Lane in Mariester.
And Fort Walton Beach Police are looking for Juan Ramon Marquez, and he's wanted for trafficking in stolen property, last known to live on Jonquil Avenue in Fort Walton Beach.
And next up on the list is Ronald Wesley Lewis. Lewis is wanted by the Walton SO for aggravated stalking. He's 26 years old and last known to live over in Pensacola.
And last on this list is 34-year-old Roderick James Rutterson Jr., who's wanted for possession of synthetic narcotics within 1,000 feet of a school and failure to appear for driving with a suspended license. An award-winning Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office K-9 was seriously injured recently during a search for a burglary suspect in Destin. Now, deputies were called to a house on Bambi Drive December 21st after the home's alarm was activated around 3:45 a.m. Deputies interrupted a burglary in progress as one individual ran out of a side door and towards the water line. Inside on the first floor, they found Christmas gifts torn open and other areas in disarray.
A perimeter was set up very quickly to try to locate the fleeing man, and K-9 Dax and his handler, Deputy Tim Patterson, they arrived to help out. Well, while searching the residence, K-9 Dax fell through a ceiling located in an attic space on the 3rd floor, and unfortunately he landed on a concrete porch about 30 feet below. He was taken immediately to Blue Water Animal Hospital for treatment and then transported to a veterinarian in Pensacola for surgery on a broken leg. Now, as of this time, K-9 Dax is recovering at home with Deputy Patterson and his family taking good care of him. The investigation into the burglary continues at this time.
And actually, K-9 Dax and Deputy Patterson, along with K-9 Diesel and Deputy Jonathan Duenas, earned the National Case of the Quarter for the U.S. Police K-9 Association back in 2014 for their work assisting the Crestview Police Department during a felony search warrant.
Yeah, he's an outstanding dog. We've been trying to keep tabs on his recovery. We'll let everyone know, and we certainly want to thank all the people who have actually brought even gifts.
Well wishes and treats.
Yes, lots of treats for Dax, lots of TLC, so we're hoping that he's going to make a full recovery. Well, next up, after the tragic death of Deputy Bill Myers last September, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes at Destin Middle School wanted to do a service project to show both their support and their appreciation for the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office.
That's right, and they launched a coin drive called Coins for Cops to raise money and purchase gift cards for as many deputies as possible as a little token of appreciation for the sacrifice deputies make each and every day. Now, they partnered with Firehouse Subs and came up with 50 $10 gift cards, which they delivered to Sheriff Ashley at the Sheriff's Office headquarters.
And we certainly want to say thank you to these youngsters and all the folks from Destin Middle School for such a heartfelt and actually very greatly appreciated gesture.
The Myers family and for thinking about this family here at the Sheriff's Office.
You guys did artwork, and who baked the cookies? You
Wow, the guys did? State your name. I knew that was coming.
And here is the final group of wanted individuals being sought by local law enforcement agencies.
And remember to contact Emerald Coast Crimestoppers, where you can provide information anonymously and, of course, earn a cash reward if you have information that leads to an arrest.
And a familiar face to the show is 40-year-old Mark Robert Fitzgerald, who is wanted for grand theft and contracting without a license, last known to live in Santa Rosa Beach.
Edward J. Stanley is wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for failure to appear on multiple counts of uttering a forged instrument and grand theft.
60-year-old Mark Stephen Hansford is wanted for altering a bank bill or note and theft.
Oh, I hope we could find this person so I can stop saying his name or butchering his name. Carlos Urbina Suarez, wanted by the Walton Sheriff's Office for larceny and burglary.
And Charles Keith Wallace is wanted for possession of a controlled substance without a prescription.
And Geronimo Bayon, wanted for failing to appear on a charge of felony DUI and driving with a suspended license. His last known address was in Walton County.
And Walton County is actually also looking for Everett Hairston for VOP on the original charge of grand theft auto.
They're also looking for 31-year-old Emmanuel Uribe Martinez. He's wanted for violating probation on charges of resisting an officer with violence and loitering and prowling.
And Eric Arsenault, who's been on the show for several months now, and he's wanted for violation of probation on the original charge of grand theft auto.
Jerome Williams is wanted for VOP on charges of grand theft, giving a false name to a law enforcement officer, as well as theft, last known address Walton County.
28-year-old Jason Michael Oliver is wanted for violation of probation for grand theft and uttering a forged check.
Still looking for John Henry Bonner, wanted by the Fort Walton Beach Police Department for grand theft and violation of a Pawnbrokers Act, as well as non-payment of child support.
Deputies are still looking for 33-year-old Daniel Wesley Arthur, and he's wanted for felony neglect of an elderly person or disabled adult, possession of a controlled substance by misrepresentation, fraud, forgery or deception, and theft. So a pretty long list there.
This person was last known to live in Shalimar. It's Samuel Edward Thomas III. He's wanted for VOP on charges of providing false information to a pawnbroker, false imprisonment, and grand theft.
And finally for today is Lonzel J. Knox, who is wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for aggravated battery.
And I guess you had some pretty cool stats to share with us.
I do. Actually, Emerald Coast Crimestoppers had a record-breaking year. We had almost 1,200 tips received, which cleared almost 100 cases, and about 65 arrests resulted for all local law enforcement agencies. And we do want to thank those law enforcement agencies, because Crimestoppers couldn't exist without law enforcement agencies, and of course the board of directors, who do a fantastic job going out and fundraising, because remember, there's no taxpayer dollars used in the Emerald Coast Crimestoppers reward fund or anything like that. So,
and I think it's also a reflection of all the people out there, including the viewers, who see these and see it in the newspaper, in the local media, on the TV show, and they take the time to actually pick up the phone or text. You said a lot of your tips now are coming in through text
and web,
and through the web, and make sure that the information is shared. It's obviously paying off.
It is. Thank you, Okaloosa and Walton Counties, because you've made it a successful year for Emerald Coast Crimestoppers.
Great job.
And to end this show, we share some video from a recent visit by some Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office staffers and an EMS crew to a child care center in Crestview, where they got a chance to meet and greet with some of Okaloosa County's little ones.
Thanks for watching.